first time since Think Bold, we're recording a brand new episode of Pioneers and Builders in Jacksonville, or as we fondly call it, PB and Jax. I'm with Annie DeStefano, a good friend of mine. I'm glad that we've met all these months ago and had a chance to catch up as much as we've had. Thank you for being here. I can't wait to talk about your story and what you're doing.
No, thank you, Randall. I appreciate it. You must have had a slow content calendar to get me on here, so I appreciate you having me.
You're so self-deprecating. Like
That's my New Jersey humor.
Yeah. They put you on the cover, like the front page of the Jacksonville Business Journal. And like when I posted about the fact that you were starting your own business, it was one of the 10 most engaged posts I've had in the history of my LinkedIn. So clearly what you're doing is important, but you still keep coming on here and saying like, oh,
well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I wanted to ask one question out of the gate because I was thinking about like, what do I ask Annie? What do I ask Annie? And the first thing that came to mind, I kid you not, is Annie, are you okay?
Some days Annie is very okay. Some days Annie is not okay. But one of the best songs I think ever created.
Life goal of mine, by the way, this is not a joke, is that I can do the Smooth Criminal dance.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I did actually, because we are on a Jacksonville podcast, I did just go see MJ the musical. They were in town. I was there.
I was there too.
My mom and I went to the very last show they had on Sunday.
Okay.
And I got to see them perform Smooth Criminal, and I sang along, and it was perfect. It was great. It was great that Jacksonville, they're having all these kind of Broadway shows coming through.
I agree. When they said, Annie, are you okay? Did you just say yes every time? Like,
yes, I did.
Yeah. I was at the Friday show.
Okay.
It was great. It's incredible. The things in between where they were doing the performances was a little slow, but the performances themselves were like, I didn't realize that the Moran Theater had the capability of putting on that kind of a display. It was unbelievable.
No, it's awesome. And it's just so like the level of talent and depth of talent is incredible at these shows.
It really is. I got to go to more. I think they're bringing a ton of these things. They had Hamilton here, right? And they're bringing other things from New York Broadway. Yeah. You're a Northeast girl, so that's kind of
I am. Yes. Yes. I got to go to a lot of Broadway shows growing up, which is cool.
That's awesome. We're going to talk about you a little bit, a big jump you made, very excited. And then some of the shared visions we have for the board that we're both on together. But I want to read off a couple of things here because I had to write them down. There were so many accolades, if you will. So for the longest time, you've been working in finance. And like I said on LinkedIn, you've busted your ass, like literally work up the ladder to get to damn near the top. And along the way, JBJ's 40 under 40, the Stevens Institute of Technology, 40 under 40. You're on the UNF Dean's board for college and engineer, or the UNF's board, the college and engineering board, right? Engineering board.
Yep. Computing, construction, and engineering.
Yep. There we go. Obviously on the board at PS27 Ventures, which is something that we share. You were part of the New York FinTech group. You have been a part of a very fun and exciting Silicon Valley bank up and down. You've done a lot. And now, as of last month, you decided to leave the corporate world where, like I said, you climbed this ladder, you became a VP, you were a part of many accelerators and incubators, and you were helping launch different companies through the backing of FIS. And you said, I think I can do more and I think I can serve better. Talk to me about that. Like, what was the thought process to go from like, okay, we're still doing really good things. I feel like I'm being impactful, but I can do it at a different level when I do it on my own.
Yeah. So a bit of my journey to get here, and it wasn't an overnight decision, as with most of these kind of transformative life decisions are. But I think what is overnight is the final thing that pushes you over the edge to do it. So I'll talk through that. But for years, I've always had this feeling that there is some FinTech, a model, a company around, working with and advising and consulting companies in the financial services space. There's a lot that goes into all the different business models. There's a lot of things to think about from a growth and product perspective and technology. And, there is really a service needed to drop in on a fractional basis, work with these companies, understand their problems, have a path forward to help solve those problems. And then how can you curate software around that to help them get to the outcome they need? And there's just a lot of noise that companies need to cut through. And, coming in with someone with expertise and a background to help them cut through that noise and get to their growth outcomes, I just couldn't get that thought out of my head. And I talked to enough folks in my network and it was resonating. And there was always something there. Long story short, earlier this year, the market kind of brought me to this decision. And I don't mean the public market, but, just the proverbial market, where opportunities were coming my way. Folks were asking for this type of service. They were wondering if I was available. And it got to the point where if you have enough potential customers asking to buy your product, you should probably go create a company and sell that product.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing. And, it was something that I think a part of this whole process was just actually taking the leap forward and doing it, which I am now. And it's a thing where you have to love and trust the journey. And I'm learning that every day. So really, funnily enough, Annie, are you okay? That is a question that I ask myself every day. And that's a big part of this journey, but you have to love kind of that process as you're going through it.
I freaking love that you called that back.
I have to, right?
Yeah. No, that's awesome. The curiosity there's a lot of curiosities. I have a ton of questions for you. Number one, what are you doing differently? Like, what's the scope of services that you're doing as Annie DeStefano's? What are you calling that? Annie DeStefano's something?
It's Annie DeStefano Advisory is the company name. Yep.
All right. And then, so what are you offering with the advisory company that maybe FIS was missing the boat a little bit on?
So this is not like anything competitive to FIS. If anything, it's like complementary to a large software provider in the fintech space. I'm way more on the side of understanding how to help with growth strategies, partnership development, getting involved in product and technology, decisions for those companies that help them with some of their business, outcomes and growth that they need. And very specifically working in certain subverticals of fintech. So a lot of my background being with, core banking, digital banking, payments, working with, companies in that space. So it's really actionable consulting work where, we're not talking about strategy decks. We're not talking about pie in the sky ideas. We're actually out in market, figuring out how we implement those ideas and get to growth faster for those businesses.
Okay. That seems fair on the complementary front. Just from like a feeling belief system, so many people, I had somebody on here, episode 19, where they talked about women in general have a bigger propensity to be latched onto their jobs and make that a part of their identity than men are. Did you feel that way? One, and then two, if so, since making the switch to entrepreneurship, have you felt a shift in like personal identity, or have you felt more energized because of it? How has corporate America versus entrepreneurship changed how you feel?
I don't think it's really changed much of how I feel. I think you have to go to a new level of discipline, which I'm in the midst of when you're running your own business and starting your own business. But I think if you just always have an entrepreneurial mindset and drive and way that you focus on things, you could do that in a large corporation and be an entrepreneurial spirit and, person working there. Or you could do it outside of the walls of that. And, I feel like staying true to that core of myself throughout all these experiences is, that's important to me. And it doesn't feel like this moment in time hopping over to the other side of the fence. It feels like a more natural transition for me because you always keep that core with you.
Yeah. What would you personally say to somebody who's dealing with what you were dealing with in the limbo state where you were with FIS, you had this idea, you had the market telling you this might be viable, and somebody's really torn between what to do, left, right, or center? Was there anything that happened? Were there any prayers? Were there any thoughts or anything that was woo-woo? Anything that kind of spearheaded your thought process that could help somebody else out?
Yes. Well, for one, I am always praying, and we will, if the Jags win a Super Bowl, then I know that my connection's good. But I will say that you have to have, I think it's a balance between being quantitative and qualitative and testing things enough to know that like, hey, this isn't just an idea in my head. Like there is a viable market here and there's enough, kind of meat around the bone here that you can build something to it. And I think if you take a methodical approach, you're data driven, try to be independent, even when it's your baby and your idea, which is really tough to do. I think you will eventually get more comfortable with the decision you're making because you have all of the facts and data around you. And, I think it's pretty basic business. I mean, do you have a product that people want to buy? So, should you go sell it? And the market is brutally honest and will tell you one way or another. So if you kind of always keep that mentality in mind and try to stay independent with your own thinking, it doesn't become as much of a scary decision as it is just kind of an equation to solve and get to an outcome. And I will say, with most of these things, it's always a personal decision as well. You can't just rely on everything I just said. Like, you have to look at your own, life, and if it's something that makes sense for your own personal risk taking.
I'm glad you said that. That segues to my very next question. How
Mm-hmm.
much did you value like mentorship input, family input, friends input before making that decision? And would you trust for the next person who's trying to go through this, would you trust for them to reach out to other people, or is it actually a deeply personal decision that they should think on themselves?
Yeah, it's a really great question. I think it is absolutely a balance where I really rely on my network and mentors and family and close friends and get their perspective and want to be challenged on my point of view if I am completely blind and have a blind spot to something. But it really, at the end of the day, comes down to an internal dialogue and being honest with yourself. And I think also just giving yourself some grace and not feel like you need to rush into a decision. Sometimes the best thing to do is actually nothing in certain situations. And I think that's an important piece to this too, of that balance of external voices, of folks that you trust, and then also having, security and confidence in your own internal dialogue.
Why should they reach out to you, and for what kind of services?
Yeah, I think if you are grappling with a problem or have a hunch about something in your business model, and you're looking for someone with a mindset and experience in the space to come in for a period of time and help you with that, I think that's a good fit. And so it's also a set of services where it's co-created at the end of the day. I mean, it's a partnership of me understanding your business, where you're trying to go, what your blockers are, and bringing perspective to that conversation that maybe you haven't considered, bringing, execution and strategies that haven't been considered, and co-creating what that outcome is with companies that I work with. And also, like, I'm totally a FinTech nerd. Like, if you just want to jam on a topic and you're just interested about something, like, that's good too. That's always fun to do as well.
Yes, FinTech. So Silicon Valley Bank,
Yes.
FIS, two very notable companies, which, like I said, you've climbed the ladder. That's clearly your thing. Why Jacksonville FinTech? Like, I understand we have some bigger companies that are headquartered here, but why do we think this is going to blow up?
Yeah, I think there's all of the ingredients here. And you have perspective of capital that's coming here or that's already here. You have community, and I'm not trying to do an alliteration thing, but it's going to be a lot of C's. You have community, which I think is one of the stronger assets. And you have the education support. So this is a hub from an education standpoint, Jacksonville and then broader Northeast Florida, which brings you talent. And at the end of the day, it's a place that, people want to live. They just want to build families here and they like the way of life. And I think when you bring all of those ingredients together, there's a lot of foundation of finance already in Jacksonville over the last, many decades. All of those things coming together poise this as a market that I think is really on the brink of exploding even more. The trick is, having all of the development around that and the time and organization to really bring that to life and bring all those ingredients together to create this ecosystem that we're talking about.
Yeah, great answer. A lot of C's.
Thank you. Yes, it is. And it's and it's just like it's like kind of like boots on the ground a little bit too. Like, you just like what you're doing and talking to folks, sharing their story, amplifying, like bringing community together, like all of these efforts over time, they're going to pay off when you have this level of activity happening in the market.
Yep. Yeah, it seems to be a lot of excitement, and I think the newer technologies that are starting to slowly be released. I was just having a conversation with somebody the other day. They were talking about, it used to be like technology was the new oil, and all these other things
Mm-hmm.
are the new oil. Well, the thing about now is EV batteries are the new oil, data is the new oil, and ChatGPT and AI is the new oil. So
Mm-hmm.
like everything, it's all just coming out in the 2020s. It just seems like there's so much market for all this different like just entrepreneurship valleys, if you will.
Yes.
And the fact that we had some really strong financial names that were already headquartered here, I think it it gave us the opportunity. I also love that we have a lot of land for people to build, and two, we're in a tax-free state. So that's why people left California to go to Texas. That's why we got New York, New Jerseyans down here in Jacksonville. But yeah, I think we're ripe to boom.
Yeah, and I like that you brought up the entrepreneur valleys. Like we're actually in the early innings of so many tech disciplines and certainly things in fintech. Like the market is massive. We don't even actually know how much this technology is going to compound and how quickly. And because all of that, there has to be a model where there's new hubs emerging. Like it's like there's going to have to be new areas that kind of boom and grow into this because everything around it is growing and it's growing so fast that you're not just can't rely on the same, 10 cities that are the hubs of certain pieces of technology and fintech. And, I just think we're one of them that's just right there and it's about to happen.
Yeah. I could not agree more with you. The financial industry is like your bread and butter. What got you onto the board of the College of Construction and Engineering and Computing? Like, how did those two worlds marry?
Yeah, well, it was interesting. I was connected to the dean through one of my friends in the industry in the fintech world, and UNF, very smart to look at it this way, bringing together efforts around fintech from the business school and then the School of Engineering and Computing and Construction, realizing that it's a discipline that's going to bridge all of those worlds, wanting to bring more of that fintech perspective into that specific college at UNF as they think about programs and outreach and building that. So I was fortunate enough to be asked to be involved in some of the strategic work and sit around the table with a great set of folks that I've learned a lot from, of disciplines that I have no business talking about. So it's been nice to be in a room as, my specific voice around fintech, but then have all these other disciplines that cross over and can learn from.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of UNF, on the board with us.
Yes.
40 under 40. Congratulations, Caleb, again.
Yes. Congrats.
Now you and him are alumni of the same thing.
Yes.
When I had him on, he said, and I found this very fascinating, that for UNF, every out of town college student that they're able to enroll, so everybody they can get from out of state, I should have said, 70% of them stay in Jacksonville after they graduate.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so for every 10 we bring in from out of state, 7 of them stay here. And if we're going to become the financial capital of the Southeast, I think it's incredibly important that we're bringing in people to help pacify the fact that we're going to have a lot of work. And it's so much better to have those people here already instead of having to be reactive in filling jobs that are going to inevitably come. So I love that you're on the UNF board doing this work. And it's definitely going to pay off as we get students in here learning multiple disciplines and fusing technology and finance.
Yeah, I completely agree. And just as someone that's a transplant myself, I never lived anywhere but New Jersey. I went to college in New Jersey, that was really home. And to come down here and just have the experience that I've had where, I can't speak highly enough about just moving somewhere else and experiencing something different. And that's great to hear that folks are doing that. They're leaving their home states and coming here and finding that it can be a new home themselves. So we definitely want to keep them.
The next big one is, we're on the board. We were just talking about Caleb, but Caleb, myself, and you were on with PS27 Ventures, which is known to invest in companies, startup companies, I think in the 250 to 500K range, but we're on the foundation side where we help bridge partnerships and get organizations together. How long have you been on the board with PS27, one? And then two, what are your hopes as we continue on this board? I think we're kind of shifting in a new direction, but what do you want to see PS27 do to help Jacksonville move forward?
Yeah. So I think I've been on the board a year and a half, but I should know that answer. It's somewhere between 18 and 24 months. And then I would say PS27 has done an exceptional job of creating a national brand as a venture fund at the stage they operate in. And I think continuing to use that and bringing it back to home initiatives here and kind of to what we were just talking about with UNF students, attracting folks to Jacksonville via our model and the platform. And on the foundation side, doing that in a way that's responsible to, areas that we care about, seeing, more diversity in entrepreneurship and more opportunity, and, being able to leverage that in attracting folks to the ecosystem here. I think it's so powerful to have, a top tier brand like PS27 to be part of that. And I'm fortunate that I was able to meet Jim and the team and the organization and help be part of that vision. I think it's always important to have, an anchor brand and partner when you're building out an ecosystem like this. And I definitely view them as that.
Yeah. It's crazy to think I'm 2 months away from being on the board for a year.
Wow. Okay.
Isn't that nuts? It feels like it was one
Yeah.
board meeting ago, but it's been longer. And
And
the thing I'm most excited about is the Entrepreneurship Awards. I think it's the coolest thing we've done. But like, what are your thoughts on it? How excited are you about it?
I'm very excited. I was going to say, like, we need to do a plug for the Entrepreneurship Awards. So
We'll do it right
PS27,
now.
we are hosting an Entrepreneurship Awards here in Jacksonville, January 2026, which will be here before we know it. And, we have categories of Entrepreneur of the Year, Corporate Innovator of the Year, Veteran Entrepreneur of the Year, Ecosystem Builder of the Year, Mentor of the Year. So Jacksonville Small Business of the Year. There's the whole purpose of putting a spotlight on the folks that are excelling and building and being part of the innovation economy, and doing it in a really nice way, in a great event, in a social gathering. I'm really excited that we're bringing this idea of a premier event to the calendar in Jacksonville, and I think it's going to really grow and attract a lot of folks over the next few years.
Yeah. I'm pumped for like what year 5 is going to look like. I
Yes.
think when
Yes.
this thing really has legs. But
Yep.
there's a couple. Let me ask you this: what award are you most excited about?
I would say, I mean, they're all exciting to me. I would probably say Entrepreneur of the Year, I think, is the one that everything, is hanging around. I'm excited for Veteran Entrepreneur of the Year because I don't have that background. I'm not a veteran. And I'm just really interested to hear and meet folks that are doing that and just learn about their businesses and where they come from. It's just something that's new to me, and I don't have as much of a network in. So I'm excited to expand my network in that way.
Yeah, that's the one I'm most looking forward to. For
Yeah, I
obvious
figured.
reasons.
Yes. Yes.
I
I
just
don't have as much of a network, so it's cool for me.
Yeah, we'll fix that.
I like it.
It's going to be really cool just to see all these people who got out of the service and instead of trying to keep the bumper plates up in their life and go the corporate route and maintain all this structure, they were like,
Hmm.
screw that. I'm going to go fix something. I'm going to go build something. And in some capacity, I'm going to make this world spin a little bit better. And so, obviously Jacksonville, not only do we have the 2 Navy bases, but we have Kings Bay just across the line in Georgia, and we have Camp Blanding not very far away. So the sheer volume of veteran entrepreneurs that are going to be put into the nominations is going to be great. And I hate it for the nominating committee, or excuse me, the selection committee, because
Hmm.
they are going to have a very, very difficult time whittling this down.
Yeah. And I like, of course, there's an award and a winner and everything. And I think it'll just be valuable for everyone that's nominated to like be there together and just meet other folks and just be able to tap that network. So yeah, I'm excited. Everyone should come join us in January in Florida.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just gonna keep the plug going just for a little bit longer, and then we'll move on. The venue is set. Yeah, like this is happening. We have stroked the checks. January 22nd, 2026. PS27 Entrepreneurship Awards. It will be the Oscars for entrepreneurship. We will be wearing tuxes for the men and gowns, and it's going to look like it does when people hold those gold statues up in February for whatever Dookie award they decided to hand out that day. But we're gonna have fun with it. I'm super pumped.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Yeah. Well, I guess moving to the side here, I want to talk about the entrepreneurship efforts a little bit before we close, because I think so many people are watching social media and they're seeing all these people glorify entrepreneurship, if you will, trying to make it. I think the word I'm looking for here is they romanticize it. They make it look
Hmm.
very glamorous. It is not glamorous. It is dirty, dirty work. And my favorite saying that people say is, "We work 80 hours as entrepreneurs to avoid working 40." But what are your thoughts? I mean, just walk me through how a day. Like, I know you said your discipline has to change, but like, I want to make sure that we are informing people who are about to make very significant decisions on their life of what it all entails to have your own company.
Yeah. I will say I'm still learning what my operating model is, but I think it's like any typical day is making sure that I'm blocking out time that is me outwardly talking with my network and folks and, anyone that has reached out to me and I've reached out to them. Obviously, number one priority is anything with a client. If there's something that we are working on together, a deliverable, brainstorming session, strategy session. And then I'll use the word maniacal about my calendar of guarding my time to have like a space to think and actually, be able to gather my thoughts. And whether that is walking away from the computer or working out or doing something else, maybe, some idea comes to me at an off hour or whatever it is. But that's the area where the discipline comes in, because if you don't guard your calendar and guard that time, like it'll get eaten up somehow. And with any of us, our biggest asset, in my opinion, is our time. So
time and attention, yeah.
Yes. And the 80 hours could be, they don't have to be normal hours. Who knows how that number gets to what that is, but I think it's really important to make sure you have that balance of like, what are your priorities of your time, and then also the space for yourself to think and strategize and reflect, and have those conversations.
I'm going to go to that here in just a second, but one extra question about the entrepreneurship and the scheduling. How is your day broken down between working with your current clients, balancing your own books, and then also doing business development to gain additional clients? And I guess an extra question on top of that would be, what is the vision for growth for you? Are you planning on being the solopreneur, or do you plan on growing this to the point where you're going to have a team and be able to execute at a much larger scale?
Yeah, no, definitely will be at the point of building a team, which is, what I'm active on now. And then I would say, as far as the split of my day, it's not like a 50% split. There could be one day that's all client engagement, and that's just how the scheduling and the calendar worked out. Or there could be one day that's all business development or, other conversations. I will say I don't want it to come off as like so transactional. Like business development, I think it's not like I wake up and I say today's going to be a business development day. Like you just have folks that are in your network, lunches, coffees, things that arise that you talk about business, but also like those are your personal relationships that you have in your network. So spending time nurturing those. So I think it's an iterative process, and I don't think it actually is something that is so precise every day, and it kind of ebbs and flows with how the time gets filled on the calendar.
Yeah. That's a really good point across the board. I'm glad that you're going to look to grow, which is great.
Yep.
In the growth department, what is this? I ask everybody this. What is Jacksonville doing well right now? It could be economy, it could be infrastructure. In terms of the city's doing, what are they doing great, and how are they supporting you in a small business aspect? And then I'll give you the floor to also do the opposite. What can Jacksonville be doing better right now?
I'll start with the better. I think it's probably the organization around efforts. I think there's just a lot of things happening in silos and folks trying to talk to one another. Maybe they're not trying to talk to one another, but ultimately there's probably way too many independent efforts that are going on for usually the same goal and outcome. So I think that is the blessing and the curse of like when you have a geographically spread out area that has grown tremendously over the years. You have now a mix of folks that are from here, folks that are not from here. I think that is absolutely, the area for improvement. And then what's going well is, what I hinted on about that growth. Like to have a growing city is a great asset. And, to have what we have here with arts and culture and sports and professional teams and businesses, like, the natural beauty of the area, all of these things that kind of go into the equation of why Jacksonville is growing, because people want to come here and live here. The city should just keep doing and make sure that they are able to support it and are ready to support all of that, because it's not going to stop. I don't see it slowing down tremendously. And, in my opinion, it's the responsibility of our leadership to be able to meet the demands of that growth in a responsible way.
You freaking nailed that, first and foremost.
Thanks.
On the better front, you're the only person that's ever said that about the silos. And it's interesting that you did, and it's important that you did, because it's the whole reason PB and Jax exists. I was sitting around, I was like, Mandarin doesn't give a shit about what's going on at the beaches, and the beaches don't really give a shit what's going on at the airport. The airport doesn't really give a shit what's going on in San Marco. And it's because we're siloed. We have all these organizational efforts on different things. And I was like, well, if the airport knew that there was a really great business or service or product that was in the Mandarin area, they may be willing to go check it out. Or if they started to realize that we had a great ecosystem of entrepreneurs, they might actually look into how they can be a part of it, or, feel that energetic buzz that comes with a team of people who are trying to build great products. And so I've asked that question a ton, and you're the only person that's ever said that, and like perfectly aligns with exactly why this podcast even exists. So that made my day.
I love it. Well, I'm glad, and I'm happy that this podcast exists and that you're doing it. And I think it's important work.
Well, thank you. I'm going to put you on the spot. What's the best Italian restaurant in Jacksonville? And you have to pick one. You can't skirt it. You can't skirt the system here.
All right. Well, I have very strong opinions about Italian food that's out of the Northeast, but I will say I loved Enza's Italian. It's off of 295, and I think it's San Jose, where the Whole Foods is and the YMCA is over there.
Yeah.
It was incredibly authentic and good and great service. I think Enza, the owner, I think she is from Italy, if I read that correctly when I was researching it. So that's my pick for Italian food.
Okay. See, this podcast is doing things because I didn't know it existed, and now they're about to get a customer because I need to go.
So there you go. Yep,
so
right next to the Whole
really
Foods.
Well. Yeah, I'm glad. So I recommended one to you. And,
yes, I have not tried it. Sorry.
I know, that's fine. Now you recommended one back. See, now I feel like the world's whole. I feel like we're good.
I like it. Perfect. It's like a whole pizza. There we go.
Man, all right. Before we go, how do you decompress? I know you're a tennis freak.
Yes.
You love tennis, and I know you play tennis, watch tennis. I know you travel to watch the tournaments, but
yes.
Is it strictly tennis? Is that what kind of clears the mind? What else do you do to stay centered?
Yeah, I mean, I would say really anything like active definitely clears my mind. Yes, I don't know if playing like highly aggressive, high-paced tennis is the best way to decompress, but it works for me. And then just going to the beach. Like I grew up in New Jersey near the beach. I'm a beach person by heart. I'm an ocean person, so that certainly is important to me. And I have my discipline of, trying to get to my church mass every week. That's also time to reflect and decompress. So, I would say those are the main areas that I use.
Okay. No, that's great. Couple questions as we close here. Number one, are you still okay?
Still
Annie
great.
Still okay. Okay, wonderful. And two, this is the hardest hitting question I'm going to ask all day. This is for the Northeasterners. Is it Taylor ham or is it pork roll?
It's pork roll because you order a pork roll, egg and cheese. Taylor ham is a brand of what is pork roll.
Okay.
Yes.
So when I was in Hoboken, it was Taylor ham, egg and cheese. That's how I had to order it. So I'm trying to, and I know that this is a big fight between New York, like Northern Jersey, Southern Jersey, like New York versus Philly. So your team pork roll.
I would say pork roll is how I've always ordered it. I thought you were going to ask the question of, does Central New Jersey exist? Like, is there a Central Jersey versus North and South?
It exists like the equator exists. It's an imaginary line that we made up just to cut it in half. But that's where you're from, right? Central Jersey, right in the middle.
I think it exists. I am from Central Jersey, but it's all relative.
Yeah. I know, obviously, you went to school there. Shout out to Stevens Institute of Technology, 40 under 40. Mm-hmm. Congratulations on that. Is there anybody else or anything else you want to give homage to while we're here?
I will give a shout out to my parents. They are the best, and I am very fortunate to spend time with them. They're down here in Jacksonville, and it's just nice to have them, and they've always been my biggest fans and supporters. I'm an only child, so I've always spent a lot of time with my parents, which I feel fortunate and blessed to do.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Thanks.
All right. Well, I speak for everybody. We're rooting for you. Congratulations on making the move. I can't wait to see where it goes. Above anything else, thank you for what you're doing for the city of Jacksonville and being a part of making it a better place to live.
I appreciate it. Right back at you. And thanks for having me today. It's been really nice and fun to be on.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. All right. We'll do it again.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Yes, ma'am.